If you drove down Pacific Coast Highway this morning, you probably saw the for lease signs.
Yeah, and the construction permits right next to them.
Exactly. It really feels like Redondo Beach isn't just changing right now. It feels like it being completely swapped out.
There's a total identity crisis happening in real time.
It really is. Welcome to the deep dive. It is Friday, February 20th, 2026, and the last 48 hours in the city have been absolute whiplash.
Yeah, 48 hours of just nonstop contradictory news.
Right. We are looking at a massive new density project, getting the green light, and in the exact same breath, the heartbreaking death of a 30-year cultural icon.
And honestly, if you are just reading the local headlines, it looks like chaos. You have high-rises going up, mom and pops shutting down, and then
hot dogs returning to the pier.
Right. Hot dogs returning to the pier.
It feels random, but that is why we are here. Today, we are doing a news-style deep dive on the last 2 days in Redondo Beach based on the latest city reports and council minutes.
Because we need to connect these dots. I don't think this is just a string of unrelated events at all.
No, definitely not. I think this is the new blueprint for the coastal city.
I agree completely. What we are looking at is a case study in urban transformation. This is the friction between economic necessity and community identity.
And that friction point is right there on the asphalt of PCH. So let's start with the heavy hitter. The architecture.
The Navisi Living Project.
Exactly. The decision came down from the City Council on the evening of February 17th, but the detailed reporting on what this actually entails just dropped yesterday, February 19th.
And the details are where the devil lives in this one.
Okay, so paint the picture for us. We are at the intersection of PCH and Pearl Street. What are we looking at?
We are looking at a fundamental shift in scale for that area. The developer is Redondo Seaside Living LLC.
Led by Bernarciel Agarwal, right?
Right along with lead partner Seema Deer. And they are putting up a 4-story mixed-use structure.
4 stories, right on PCH.
4 stories. It will have 49 residential units total and a massive ground floor layout. 17,000 square feet of commercial space.
Wait, hold on. 4 stories on PCH. I thought Redondo had really strict local zoning limits specifically to prevent that canyon effect on the highway.
They do.
So how did they bypass that? Is the city council just rolling over on this?
The city didn't really have a choice here. This is where you have to look at the state-level mandates.
Ah, the state mandates.
Exactly. This is a classic density bonus play. Because the developer committed to reserving 8 of those 49 units, specifically for very low-income households.
They get concessions.
Precisely. They receive state-mandated concessions on height and density that completely override local zoning laws.
Okay, so because they carved out 8 affordable units, the state effectively handcuffs the city and says you have to let them build bigger.
That is exactly how the policy works. The local zoning becomes a suggestion, not a rule. If the council had tried to block the height, they would likely be facing a lawsuit from the state by Monday morning.
That is incredibly frustrating for the locals who actually show up to the planning meetings.
And they absolutely did show up. You had residents like Carolyn Hardy voicing some very serious opposition.
Yeah, I read her comments.
And the issue wasn't just some vague complaint about tall buildings. It was about the logistics of that specific location, especially the intersection of PCH and Ruby Street.
Oh, I know that intersection. It is a nightmare on a good day.
It is a total choke point.
Yeah, if PCH backs up at Ruby, which it always does during rush hour, people start cutting through the residential grid to get around it.
Exactly. It turns those quiet neighborhood streets into bypass lanes.
And adding 49 units right there is going to add a lot of cars.
But the developer Agarwal argues that they've mitigated this. They pointed to the expanded garage plans.
How big is a garage?
It aims to fix the parking burden with 68 commercial spots and 61 residential spots.
So they are checking the boxes on paper.
They are. But checking boxes for parking spots doesn't magically make the traffic burden on the actual coastal infrastructure disappear.
No, it doesn't. And here is the other part of the equation that I think people are missing. The developer keeps using this term, fiscal anchor.
Ah, yes, the fiscal anchor argument.
That sounds like corporate speak for we need to make a lot of money on this building.
Well, it's the economic justification for that massive ground floor. Agarwal's stance is that the commercial space is absolutely necessary.
To pay for the rest of it.
Exactly. The rents from those businesses are required to subsidize the affordable housing component.
But let's run the logic on that for a second. If you need 17,000 square feet of retail space to act as your fiscal anchor, you need to charge premium rent.
You need to charge very aggressive rent.
So who can afford that?
Not your local bookstore. not a family-owned bakery.
Right. You are practically guaranteeing that the only tenants who can move in are massive national chains, or maybe an urgent care clinic or a high-end bank.
It relies on a synergy model. The idea is to create a city-like feel right there on the corner.
But if the rent is too high, you just end up with luxury apartments sitting on top of an empty glass box.
That is the risk.
It feels like we are engineering a city that looks really impressive on an architectural rendering, but might not actually work for the community. Which brings us to the second part of this update.
The hospitality sector.
Yeah, because while we are approving these new fiscal anchors, the actual cultural anchors of the community are drowning.
The last 30 hours have been brutal for legacy businesses in Redondo.
I think the one that hit everyone the hardest was the news about Ragin Cajun Cafe.
Yeah, that one really stinks.
If you live in the South Bay, Ragin Cajun isn't just a restaurant. It is an institution. And the news just dropped that they are officially terminating operations at the Redondo location on March 1st, 2026.
Which is barely a week away.
It is shocking.
It is. But if you look at their timeline, it is also the end of a very long, incredible run. This is a place that has been a fixture since 1992.
92. They started on Pier Avenue over in Hermosa, right?
That's right. And then they transitioned to a food truck model way before the food truck boom really took off.
Oh, yeah, they were pioneers with that.
And then they finally settled into that brick and mortar spot on South PCH. It's a 32-year history.
When you lose a place like that, you aren't just losing a menu. You are losing a community gathering spot. The vibe there was so specific and welcoming.
It is a massive loss. But the broader context here is that this isn't an isolated incident. We are seeing a major contraction across the board.
Right. Tell us about Combat Garage.
Combat Garage is the jiu-jitsu center over on Avenue D. They just closed their doors after 21 years in business.
2 decades of community building just erased.
And it's not just the mom and pops taking the hit. Even the national chains are pulling back. Peet's Coffee just announced they are closing branches in both Redondo and Manhattan Beach.
See, that is what scares me. When a massive corporate entity like Peet's decides the math doesn't work here anymore, what chance does a local martial arts studio have?
Very little. The drivers behind this are universal right now. You have incredibly high overhead costs and shifting consumer patterns.
It is just too expensive to exist.
Maintaining a legacy footprint in a modern economic climate is incredibly difficult. The rent goes up, the margins go down, and eventually even a 32-year institution has to call it quits.
So we are kicking out the actual organic history, like Ragin Cajun, because they can't afford to operate. And we're replacing it with what exactly? Because nature abhors a vacuum.
And so does the local economy.
Right. So let's pivot to the positive news. The Chamber of Commerce released a report in February 2026 talking about some green shoots in the economy.
Yes. There is a resurgence happening, but it looks very different from the businesses that are leaving.
Let's start with the pier revitalization.
City officials confirmed today, February 20th, that Hot Dog on a Stick is reopening at the pier.
You have got to be kidding me.
I am not. It is coming back.
After they closed back in late 2024.
Yes. And this is a very specific strategy. It is what we call retro retail.
Retro retail.
Exactly. The pier relies heavily on tourist appeal. So the strategy is to bring back these heritage brands to engineer a sense of nostalgia.
It feels a little cynical, doesn't it? We can't support the real history down the street on PCH, so we let it close. But then to convince tourists that the pier still has charm, we bring back Hot Dog on a Stick.
It is trading organic history for curated nostalgia.
Right. We are buying back our own childhoods. But looking at the rest of the Chamber's report, the new wave of businesses isn't really about nostalgia at all.
No, the new wave is entirely about experience-based consumerism.
And wellness. It seems like everything is a wellness center now.
Well, let's look at the new entrants. You have Kiss Kepi and Shape, which is a new strength training facility.
Okay.
You have New Mom School, which offers postpartum support.
Which is great. That is an important service.
Absolutely. And then you have niche retail entering the market. There's a place called Me and My Boo Boo.
Me and My Boo Boo, what is that?
It is a collectibles and plush toy store.
Collectible plushies, okay.
And then you move into the really high-end services, businesses like DermFX, which provides medical aesthetics, and Atmosphere, which specializes in residential energy and EV charging.
EV charging installation. That is a very specific demographic.
It is. And if you analyze these businesses, especially DermFX and Atmosphere, they tell you exactly who the new Redondo Beach is catering to.
The affluent South Bay demographic?
Precisely. We are moving away from businesses that sell general stuff to businesses that sell highly specialized experiences and high-end lifestyle maintenance.
Because you can buy a coffee maker online. You can't buy medical aesthetics online. You actually have to go to the physical location.
Exactly. That is how physical retail survives in 2026. You have to offer an experience that requires the consumer to be in the room.
Which perfectly brings us to the final cultural highlight from the report. Because if you want to drive foot traffic on PCH today, you need a spectacle.
And Eat Fantastic provided one.
Yes, they did. This is the burger chain that just opened a new location on PCH.
The burger market is obviously incredibly saturated.
Great. So how do you get people to pull their cars over and actually walk inside?
You leverage sports culture. They painted this absolutely massive mural of Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts right on the side of their building.
It is huge. If you are driving down PCH, you cannot miss it.
It is a brilliant strategy. It ties the business to the Dodgers. It taps into the massive cultural cachet of Ohtani and Betts. And most importantly, it makes the location an instant landmark.
It becomes an Instagram destination. People aren't just going for a burger. They're going to take a photo with the mural.
It is experience-based consumerism applied to fast food.
It is just wild to look at the contrast in this city right now. On one side of the street, you have a giant, pristine mural celebrating the future of Los Angeles sports culture to sell burgers.
And on the other side of the street, you have Ragin Cajun packing up boxes after 32 years.
That really is the last 48 hours in a nutshell.
It is a city in profound transition.
So let's synthesize all this for everyone listening, because if you are sitting in traffic on PCH right now, maybe stuck at Ruby Street just trying to get home, what does this actually mean for your daily life?
It means you are watching the old Redondo give way to denser, more service-oriented Redondo.
Right. The old Redondo was combat garage and a plate of gumbo. The new Redondo is Navisi Living and medical aesthetics at DermFX.
Exactly. The city is pivoting to that synergy model we talked about. It's becoming much less of a sleepy beach town and much more of a high-end coastal city with denser infrastructure.
While simultaneously trying to hold on to the illusion of a sleepy beach town by throwing a hot dog on a stick at the pier.
Right. They are trying to balance economic realities with aesthetic nostalgia.
So it leaves us with this big overarching question. We see how the mechanics work now. The city uses commercial vitality, those high rents from the ground floor of places like Navisi Living, to subsidize the affordable housing mandates.
That is the engine driving the development.
But if every coastal city adopts this exact same state-mandated density and high-end retail model, do they all eventually become indistinguishable from one another?
That is the risk of the synergy model.
Right. I mean, if the only businesses that can afford the fiscal anchor rents are national chains and luxury service providers, does the actual character of the community just get erased?
Or does the retro retail somehow keep the local spirit alive?
I don't know if a corporate reboot of a corn dog stand can carry the cultural weight of an entire city.
It is a lot to ask of a hot dog.
It really is. It makes you wonder where actual local culture comes from, if not from the people who live and work there organically. That is something I really want everyone listening to mull over. If we price out the history, what exactly are we building on top of it?
It is a question every resident should be asking their city council.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive on Redondo Beach. A lot of major developments, some really tough closures, and a whole new wave of experiences moving in.
The city is definitely not standing still.
No, it is not. If you are in the area, please go pay your respects to Ragin Cajun before March 1st. Get the gumbo one last time before it's gone.
Highly recommend doing that.
And check out that Eat Fantastic mural on PCH. Even if you hate the traffic, it really is a spectacular piece of art. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks for listening.